This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place to tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
I guess I'll restart it. Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. And we are here in the building to talk about the New York Knicks Content Day today. And if you did not get a chance to see the full videos, which you probably didn't because they just dropped, you can go to YouTube and check them out. But we've got some clips from, different media sources, and we're going to talk about what some of those people said. So, Steph, I'm going to ask you again so that everyone can hear what you said. How'd you feel about the Content Day that you seen on YouTube earlier this morning?
Oh, overall, I liked it because it was like if you went to Media Day yourself, that's what you would see. You would see the interviews with Monica McNutt. You would see the different stations. You would see, Mitch, them photographing Mitch, Derrick Rose dribbling the ball. So it was almost like being there in person behind the scenes. I like that. I just think in terms of the interviews itself, the audio was off a little bit. Like I didn't get a chance to hear Randle's interview at all. And I'm glad that now I understand now that there were individual interviews with the media. Those have dropped, so we'll get a chance to see that. So once we put it all together, I think it'll be fine. But again, I liked the behind the scenes. The audio needed to be tweaked some.
Yeah. And Kevin said, Sim, you got Queen looking like Randle today. Yeah, my bad, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what was going on with Randle today with Monica McNutt. I did like what they did with the Content Day, getting that behind the scenes look. Normally we get to see those pictures later. Right. But, just getting a chance to, see them going around to each station. I did get a chance to go to Media Day once. I didn't see. When I went to Media Day, we were in a little waiting room. Then they shoveled us down the hall onto the court, and the players would come up one by one or two by two and answer some questions. We could all raise our hands and ask some questions. And then on the other side they had a partition up on the other side is where they were taking pictures. We weren't allowed over there, of course. But it is nice to let people see, what's going on behind the scenes, So I thought that was a pretty nice touch, and hopefully next year they'll have the audio and all of that stuff better, ready to go, so that we can hear everything clearly. I did get a little bit nervous that they weren't going to do the normal Media Day.
Right.
I was, when it cut off, I was like, okay, that's it. I thought they were going to keep it on and let us see the press conference and all of that. They didn't. And we started to get news as it flooded out. While the reporters were there, news began to flood out. And then now you can see the entire interviews on YouTube. So make sure you go check it out. I know as soon as I'm done here, as soon as I'm done here, we're going to the Queen's Court. Then after the Queen's Court, I'll check out those interviews. And if there's some things that I heard that I'd like to bring attention to, then I'll bring that up. But we've got some good content to go on, I think, where we can begin to talk about, just some of the things that was said today. All right. And I think I want to start with RJ Barrett. Right. RJ Barrett said today, and most people are going to talk about this, that he believes the Knicks are going to shock the world. All right, so this is what RJ Barrett had to say about the Knicks shocking the world.
This year we're coming, you and your experience, even more hungry. a lot of guys that have something to prove, you know, myself included. I got everything to prove, you know. So we're really coming with that mindset, and definitely think we're gonna shock the world.
So what do you think about that, Steph?
Listen, I like the confidence, and this is a talented roster. So, I mean, if the chemistry is right, you know, by shock the world, I don't think he means a championship, but I think by shock the world, I believe he means outplaying other people's expectations.
Right.
And I definitely think the Knicks can do that, given their roster. It is talented. Certain things have to fall in place, but yeah, they can.
Yeah, I like the fact that he said people are coming in with a point to prove, because I think that's really true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Randall's got a point to prove. JB's got a point to prove. RJ's got a point to prove. You know what I mean? Now, they got to figure out how to prove it together, right? Without it being, you know, each one of them individually, you know, trying to prove their point. But I think what they all have going for them is that they're all under a long-term contract. You know, so it's not like they're playing for, they're playing for a contract this season or anything like that. They're here, so they can look at each other and say, "Yo, this is our squad. This is our nucleus. You know, we're gonna make this work together."
Right.
You know, and what I did like is that we were able to see when they went behind the scenes is, you know, when RJ and Brunson and Randle got together, you know, they a little bit of laughing and joking. Although in the chat, when it was just Randle and RJ, people like, oh, this is awkward or this or that. I really didn't think it was that awkward. They were just there, standing there, taking pictures. You know what I'm saying? It's not always going to be all laughs and giggles. Right. You know? But, you know, you did get a chance to see guys talk with each other, you know, laugh and joke a little bit, which gives you an idea, you know, on how they might interact, although it is media days, the first day. So, you know, things obviously can change, right? RJ also talked about Jalen Brunson. You know, you can imagine that Jalen Brunson's going to be, all of the players were asked about Jalen Brunson, right? This is what RJ had to say about Jalen and trusting him.
Jalen, you know, being a point guard, he's been a point guard his whole life, basically. He really knows what to do. I mean, you saw it really in that Utah series. You saw what he could do. He's been a winner. You know, he won in university. You know, he likes to bring that up. I don't know. I don't believe the Villanova hype, but he really doesn't know what he's doing out there, and you know, we already trust him right now from day one. So I think that'll be really good.
So they, you know, he said they trust him from day one. I guess. I mean, can you trust someone from day one? I mean, I guess you can. I guess for me, I'm the type of person where I can trust somebody from day one, and then they have to lose the trust.
I agree with you, and I think what helped the trust was them watching him perform in the playoffs.
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of easy to trust somebody who's a very good player and proved it on that stage, with and without Luka. And then also they've been playing with him in the summer league. They've been playing with him in practice. You know, him and RJ, and this is obviously just observation, seem to have a good rapport. So yeah, I think he does trust him.
Yeah, you know, and obviously it's going to take some training camp. You know, they're going to trust what he can do when he steps on the court, because they've seen what he did in Dallas, etc. They've played with him, like you just said. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that trust just grows even deeper as they move on into the season. Right. You know what I'm saying? RJ was also asked about being mentioned in trade rumors, right? And, you know, he gave, I think, you know, a good answer. He said, you know, I isolated myself, so I stayed away from all of that. And I'm grateful that I'm here long term, and this is the place that he's always wanted to be. So I hope that he gave the right answer, but I hope that, he really feels that. Well, I think he does really feel that way. I hope that for everyone, I guess I should say, because I was one of those people that asked the question, about RJ and, does he have any kind of animosity? And I think for me, it answers the question a little bit, that no, he's just happy to be here. He understands it's a business and things are going to take place. And you got to roll with those punches. You know what I'm saying? So I think it answered my question at least a little bit and appeased me at least a little bit, but I still got to see during the season how things play out. How do they handle things when there's adversity?
Right.
And if you see anything start to come out during adversity. What do you think about it, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, about your last point or about what RJ was saying in response to the trade rumors?
About in response to the trade rumors.
Yeah, I agree with him. I mean, I believe him when he said that. That's what he did. I mean, he's a level-headed person. He doesn't really come across as somebody that's reading everything on Hoops Hype and reading everything in the paper to see what the Knicks are doing. I think he was locked in, like he said, practicing, staying away from the media, staying focused, understanding that there's some things he needs to work on. And, he said in the interview with Monica that he understands basically that, anything can happen. You just got to stay locked in. But at the same time, when it was over and he found out that he was going to sign an extension, he was pretty ecstatic about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be ecstatic about it too. Signing that much money,
million, right?
I'd be jumping off the walls if I'm signing that much money. So I'm glad that he's in a good space. I think that's important, for him to be in a good space. And the Knicks, I think they've done a good job of helping to put him in a good space, by, kind of hyping him up. If you were able to listen to the Leon Rose interview, he said RJ is one of our centerpiece players. You know what I'm saying? Meaning they're looking to build with and around RJ Barrett. So I think that's very, very, it's good that they're doing it that way. And
sorry, go ahead, son.
No, and I was just gonna say, and making them feel wanted, because it's easy if you're mentioning trade rumors. It's easy to not feel wanted.
But I'm wondering though, does he feel more comfortable, or is he feeling like, all right, they're gonna just say what needs to be said? I was just in trade rumors yesterday. Now today they're saying that I'm the face of the franchise and they're gonna build
Yes. See, that's how I would think. That's how I would feel. Like,
right.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Cool. You're saying this right now, but if something sweeter comes along, you might be ready to move me again.
Right.
And I guess that's where he says he's got something to prove too.
Right.
I don't think it's just living up to the contract. It's also, I'm going to prove to you that I'm not the one you want to trade.
Right.
I'm glad he has that kind of mentality,
Yeah.
and hopefully Jalen Brunson, can help him to play the best basketball of his career coming into the season. Hopefully Julius Randle will be there to help him help RJ play the best basketball of his career. Because he's going to need those guys. Now, he also said, and this was, I didn't get to see the interview yet, but this was, I read it from a media source, that, his goal last year was to make the All-Star team. His goal this year is to make the All-Star team. And I like for him to have those kind of individual goals. I see a lot of people, all the time say, oh, you have selfish goals, this and that, but everyone's got to have individual goals.
Right.
If you don't have individual goals, then, you can get lost in the sauce somewhere. Like, you got to know that you're focusing, some things you focus on you, but obviously, you got to fit within the team.
Right.
You try to accomplish your goals within the team. What do you think it's going to take for RJ to make the All-Star team?
The Knicks have to win, number one. Like, I think if the Knicks is not even in play-in contention around that time, I don't think he's going to make the. Well, first of all, the Knicks have to be. You think about how that shooting guard and the small forward position, right? I would think he'll probably be eligible for both guard or forward.
Right.
And you think about how many are in this loaded Eastern Conference. For him to get one of them spots, the Knicks got to be in the top 6. I think the Knicks would have to shock the world, basically be playing much better than, people expect them to play. I don't think if the Knicks are in the 9th or 10th seed, at the time of the voting, I'm not sure about that. That being said, those first 5 spots are fan based, so if the fans come out and vote for him, he might have an opportunity to do it. But if he doesn't get them fan votes and it's based on the coaches, the Knicks will have to be in pretty good standings for him to get the vote over those other guys.
Right. Or he'd have to be playing just like astronomical basketball, right? 30 points per game.
Right.
7, 8 rebounds a game, 5 assists, something like that. Shooting on high percentages. He'd have to be playing that kind of basketball in order for him to make the All-Star team if the Knicks are not playing good. Now, let's say the Knicks are somewhere around 500 around that time. Do you think that's good enough? If there's somewhere around 500 in contention, maybe 500 at that point in time is, 8th or 9th seed, maybe. Or if they are 500, do you think the Knicks fans vote them in?
Yeah.
If they're around 500.
Yeah, I think the Knicks fans will.
Yeah. It'd be nice to see. I mean, obviously, Julius Randle was the last All-Star that the Knicks had 2 years ago. It'd be nice to see the Knicks get another All-Star in there this season.
Yeah.
And Jalen Brunson could be a guy that's mentioned in All-Star talks this year. He was asked about coming to the Knicks. This is what Jalen Brunson had to say.
The opportunity to come back east in the familiar area where I grew up, somewhat close. I'm just really excited for this opportunity with these guys. And I think we can do something special. And that was very appealing to me, just to play with these guys.
Now, obviously we know about the contract, but do you think, playing with, he thought about, I'm going to get a chance to play with RJ and Randle. Probably Derrick Rose was someone that, was in his thought processes as well because, he's familiar and they have a relationship. But how much do you think he looked at the team and said, I can really fit in there, and, Julius Randle is a guy that made an All-NBA team and an All-Star team. RJ Barrett's on the rise. They have some young pieces. Do you think he looked at the Knicks that way?
Absolutely. I mean, there was reports that one of the questions he asked the front office was, what's your plan for us, going to, elevating this team? What's the plan? So it wasn't just about being home. It was about feeling that this roster had an opportunity to win now and in the future. So absolutely, I think he did look at the individual players, his relationship with Derrick Rose, Julius Randle talent, even though he had a down year, not statistically, but maybe, field goal percentage, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like you just said, RJ up and coming. Yeah, I do think he looked at the roster.
Yeah, and, that I think bodes well for the Knicks too, right? If you're the top free agent that you want to get looks at the roster and says, I think I can fit in there and we can possibly make some noise, regardless of what anybody else, content creators, media people, whoever says, other GMs, he feels like, hey, I can come in and I think we can make some noise. I think the Knicks haven't had that in a while.
Yeah.
Where someone, obviously the money means something, because they're offering him a lot of money. But for him to be able to look at the Knicks and say, hey, I could take this money and get a chance to play with some of these guys and maybe go to another level, I think that's a step up for the Knicks. You know what I mean? I think the last guy was who? Amari Stoudemire, and I don't know if he really looked at the roster and said, I think we can really do something. You know what I mean? Phoenix wasn't trying to give him a contract because of, or they were, but they weren't going to insure the contract, and he wanted to make sure the contract was insured. So you had that whole thing going on. The Knicks gave him a contract, an insured contract. So that probably played a bigger role when it came to Amari Stoudemire. JB, I think, is a totally different situation, and I'm glad he's here. He had a little bit more to say. This is JB on kind of what he said before about being the savior.
Most importantly, I just want to be myself. I think I said this a while ago, somehow, some way. Not a savior in any way, shape, or form. I just want to be able to contribute to the team, and I try to help this team win games. I like the group. Can't wait to build more chemistry with these guys. Can't wait to see what we can unlock and unleash. And so I'm really excited.
Yeah. See, I like that word where he says what we can unlock and unleash. Right? That says to me that he has paid attention to the roster, and he's probably talking about guys like Obi Toppin, Immanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes, you know what I mean? RJ Barrett, and even Julius Randle, so I love what he said there. I can't wait to listen to more and hear more of what Jalen Brunson said. Again, you're going to be able to hear the entire interviews, ladies and gentlemen, on the Knicks YouTube page. So make sure you go check that out. Any thoughts on that there, Steph, that you heard from Brunson?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't see himself as a savior. I don't think the Knicks front office, coaching staff, or even the fans see him as a savior. I think we just see him as a piece, a much needed piece. And I think he said the right word, unlock. Mitch, Obi, RJ, Randle. I think all of those guys are going to be better because Brunson is on the team, and others as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I think the savior thing comes in. Actually, I don't know if any fans have called him the savior. It really came from one interview, right? On Bart and Hahn, I think, right? And Bart, he said the word savior, and JB was like, "No, I'm not a savior, right? I'm just trying to come in and fit in, be myself, and play my basketball game." So I think I don't know if anyone's really looked at him as a savior, but I think that question comes up because the Knicks have gone so long without a point guard, right? And a point guard that you can look at and say, okay, we don't have to search for this anymore. He's going to be here for years to come. Right. And I think a lot of people look at him and say he could possibly even have all-star potential at this position. And so I think that's where the whole savior thing comes from. It really came from Bart. But then I guess the thought is kind of out there because, he really does answer the question or answer the bell, ring the bell for a position of need for the Knicks that's been there for a very, very long time.
No doubt about it.
Very long time. I want to get to Derrick Rose because, things with Derrick Rose are interesting, right? He really did lose a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Okay, so he left last season at 216 pounds. he's now 194. Yeah, 194. And he said, he said that he said Tom Thibodeau was emailing him over the summer, texting him, was on him over the entire summer. And he said he took offense to it a little bit, right? That he basically told him he needs to lose weight, right? And he was like, "Oh, what you mean?" He like, "Come on, oh, what you mean I need to lose weight, But he challenged him, and he took it personal, and went out there and lost the weight, right? And so, he's walking around. You heard Leon Rose say he's walking around camp with no shirt on, but he's also walking around the press conference with no shirt on. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. This might be the first time I've seen somebody come to media day with no shirt on. But he did so. This is Derrick Rose on being 100% healthy coming into training camp, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm 100%. I'm good. Yeah, I'll be back out there.
So you do follow everything you guys do in practice, you'll be doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'll be out there. I mean, as long as Tibbs want me out there.
When did you first return to the court?
I've been working out this whole time. I played, I think, one time with the group while I've been here, but I've been working out this whole time. I had Rich travel with me everywhere that I went this summer, and yeah, I've been at it.
Yeah, so that's Derrick Rose. He said he's 100% healthy. I wonder how much Tom Thibodeau wanted Derrick Rose to lose weight to help his body so that he stays healthy and he can play the entire season. Because one of the things that he said while he was being interviewed with Monica McNutt is, she asked, "What did you learn from this team from last year?" And he said, those guys are gonna fight. They're fighters, And then he talked about, how hard it was sitting on the bench watching and that he needed to be healthy. Leon Rose, talked about him being the heart and soul of the team.
Yep.
So from the way that Tibbs was on him over the summer, and now he's down to his rookie year playing weight, everything points to him. If he's healthy, he can get out there. He's getting major play. You know what I'm saying? Getting major play, which is cutting some people out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's cutting some people out. But Derrick Rose is going to get play, which, if you're trying to win, I guess it's a good thing because you know what Derrick Rose can still do. You know what I mean? He should be faster. I mean, he's down almost 20 pounds. He should be faster, right? I don't think you're going to see him going up trying to dunk or anything like that because, he's still older. Hopefully he doesn't have as much weight coming down on his knees and on his body. Doesn't put as much stress on his body, because he's 20 pounds lighter. Yeah, Derrick Rose is going to be out there, so somebody's going to be out. But what do you think about just, him being healthy, coming into the season healthy?
Sam, I'm ecstatic. If we're trying to win, and all indications point to the Knicks are trying to get the best playoff seed they can get, you got Brunson playing 34 minutes. You got Derrick Rose backing him up with 14 minutes or whatever it is. That's a strong position for the Knicks.
Yeah.
Like, there is no drop off at that position at all. It's the strongest we've ever been at a position of need. And 12, 14 minutes a game is ideal for Rose, given his, given his history. Now, it creates other problems, like you alluded to, who's the odd man out? I don't see Tibbs playing more than 10, Yeah. So we talked about this on Queen's Court, I believe it was last week when we talked about the rotation. Who's the odd man out? And we thought it might be Rose, that he might be the one that's situational. But from all indications are, he's going to be in the rotation. So between IQ, Grimes, and Cam, one of them may be out.
Yeah,
the
man.
rotation.
And it's hard for me to see IQ being out because he's already been with Tom Thibodeau this will be his third season with Tom Thibodeau. Right. He's had major minutes in all three of those seasons.
Yep.
And I know Leon Rose said everybody gets a clean slate, and so on and so forth. And, that's Tom Thibodeau's train of thought. And that might be true, but there's some guys that have minutes penciled in. And I think IQ is one of them. So for me, it kind of boils down to Grimes and Cam.
Yeah.
Me and Tony talked about this the other night. It boils down to those two. And both of those guys are talented. You want to have talent on your bench, but also those guys are looking at their career, especially someone like Cam who's in a contract year. If he's not getting playing time, if Cam ain't getting playing time, I think he's moved by the deadline if he's not playing. His agent is going to want him gone, into a situation where he can play so that he can try to get a contract.
Right.
Right.
Maybe even sooner than that.
True. True.
I mean,
True.
if you're not in the rotation.
Right. True. Okay, so let's assume that Derrick Rose is healthy the entire season, right? How do the Knicks approach next season? Because I believe this is the last year of his contract. So how do the Knicks approach next season with Derrick Rose?
10, 12 minutes, they probably re-sign him. Not for $15 million, though.
Right. Right. Not for $15 million.
They probably re-sign him $5 million,
Yeah. And he'll probably, listen, Derrick Rose, he wants to play with Tibbs and under Tibbs. You know what I mean? So I don't see him looking and saying, just, send me, signing anywhere. If he's not playing with the Knicks, he's going to go back and play in Chicago. It's the only other place that I see Derrick Rose playing now because he's approaching the end of his career. I guess, he's 33 years old. I don't know, who knows how much longer he can play. Guys are playing until 38, 39, 40 years old now. But, he's approaching that time, and I don't see him playing for any other place. He's either playing with Tibbs or he's going back to Chicago. And I think Chicago would bring him back. Even if they didn't think he could play, which he can, they would bring him back simply because he's from Chicago. He's hometown hero. And, it's good publicity. It's a feel-good story for him to go back home. You know what I mean? He did, kind of talk about the season a little bit, and mention the bench unit, right? And this is Derrick Rose talking about the season just a little bit.
I feel like we got a deep group. The starters are going to be the starters, but I feel like the bench, we got a lot of guys that want to play and want to show that they have a lot, and show what they've been working on. So, we're going to push each other. We're going to hold each other accountable.
Yeah, there you go. He said he's gonna, they're gonna hold each other accountable. There's another part to this clip here. I don't have it queued up where he's talking about guys holding each other accountable, and then Randle comes in and I guess they start laughing. I don't know if they're laughing about what he's saying with the accountability piece or because he don't have a shirt on. I feel like it's because he doesn't have a shirt on. So that's the reason he came in laughing at him about that. But it was it was a fun moment. You know what I mean? How much do you think Derrick Rose can help hold players accountable? He's never been a guy that's outspoken, but do you think as he's getting older and he's understanding his role on any team that he's playing, maybe he's becoming more outspoken? And I don't mean in a negative way, but in a way, where he pulls somebody to the side and, hey, let's have this conversation, about what you need to do as a player, or even Randle, let's talk about some of the things you need to do as one of the main guys on this basketball team. You know, Randle talks about Rose and his respect for Derrick Rose. We're going to get to that in a little bit. You know, but do you think maybe Rose is growing? Because sometimes you got to grow into that leadership role sometimes. You think he's really growing into that leadership role, and it's one of the big reasons why the Knicks are like, yeah, we really need to keep this guy around.
Yes, that he also alluded to it in the interview when he said when he was injured, you know, it's kind of hard to talk. Like, people don't really want to listen to you when you're not actually on the floor with them.
Right.
I think now that he's out on the floor with them, I think that that's a barrier that's not there in terms of him talking. I think he's also growing, you know, into it as well. And lastly, one of the reasons I think the Knicks want him on the team is because him, Brunson, and Fournier are the only ones who really know how to win. Unless I'm missing somebody, you know, on this level, or at least on the Olympic level, you know, for Fournier.
Right.
We don't really have a lot of players who've been tested and really know what it takes to win.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. When you look at the roster, that's about it.
If you're going to shock the world, you need some of them guys.
You need some of them guys.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the roster right now, I don't think let me see. Jalen Brunson was in the Western Conference Finals last season, right? I don't think we have anyone on this roster who's been past the conference finals.
Yeah.
No, Derrick Rose, well, he was probably injured. I'm trying to remember. Was he injured when the Bulls were in the conference finals?
No, I think he was in the Eastern Conference Finals against Cleveland.
Was he? Okay.
Or did he was that the year he got injured?
I'm not sure. You know, but yeah, you need guys around that know how to get it done and understand how to be disciplined enough to get it done. You know, and you know, he hasn't been to the promised land, but I do think he's got that kind of discipline. And of course, Jalen Brunson, you know, he's got that experience, at least that experience from last season.
Right.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know, Derrick Rose is, you know, he's around. He's around, and he's going to be around. You know what I mean? Hopefully he remains healthy throughout the season. And then we get to Julius Randle. All right. And, you know, so it's going to be Julius Randle was in good spirits. Leon Rose said, you know, that Julius Randle is excited to get the season started. And, you know, I think you said if you go to YouTube, it's like a 12-minute video with Julius Randle, right? But we do have some clips from Julius Randle and, you know, talking about being excited to get the season started and then learning from the offseason. So here's Julius Randle on being excited to get the season started.
So I'm really excited, you know, to have those guys in the mix. You know, me and D had great chemistry, you know, last year and even more so the year before. So I'm always excited to suit up and get on the court and play with D, special talent. And obviously, we know what Jalen brings to the game and what he will bring to our team. And, you know, in the off-season workouts and just getting to know each other and stuff like that, it's been great. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So, you know, he talked about, and I feel like we didn't get the entire question. So it kind of felt like that question was geared towards, you know, what can a guy like Jalen Brunson and Derrick Rose, how can they help you, you know, as far as, you know, his play. He did mention also that he feels Jalen Brunson will be able to take some of the pressure off of him. Doesn't need to have the ball in his hands as much, you know, to help his play a little bit. But I do agree when he played, when Derrick Rose was on the floor, we talked about this a lot, that he would be a different player. He would defer to Derrick Rose. I mean, you got to.
Right.
You got to. If you're Julius Randle, how do you not defer or step aside and let Derrick Rose do whatever he wants out there on the floor? I just hope that he does the same thing with Jalen. You know, do you foresee any kind of issues with Jalen Brunson or Julius Randle not just letting Jalen Brunson do his thing?
I don't. Randle respects people that he thinks are better than him or just as good as him.
Right.
And if he doesn't have that feeling about you, he's not going to acquiesce to you.
Right.
But I think, I saw it with Kemba. I've seen it with Derrick Rose, and I believe the same thing will happen with Brunson. I don't think there's going to be any issues.
Okay. Do you think he feels that way towards RJ?
Not yet.
Not yet.
But I don't. But I don't think it's adversarial.
Right.
I don't think it's that we can't play together. But I don't think that he's like, you're better than me. You've surpassed me, so I'm going to acquiesce. Like, no.
Right. Because it felt like last year RJ was trying to, I don't want to say win Julius's respect, but trying to be the player that Julius would respect in that manner, right? Because I don't want to say he disrespects him as a person, but on the court in that manner, the kind of guy to say, no, I'm going to just sit back. RJ wants the ball. I'm giving it to him. I mean, I think there were at times, where he did. RJ said, I'm just going to take it. And Julius just, let him go ahead and take it. Some things that I seen on the court sometimes last year, I don't know. It's almost like the big brother, little brother thing with those two a little bit. You know what I mean? They don't seem to do much off the court. They said last year that they were, RJ said last year that, they've, kind of close, you know what I mean? From the time that he came into the league, that's been his airplane mate or whatever you want to call it. They probably got that big brother, little brother thing kind of going on a little bit. And it will take a little while for Julius to give him that kind of respect, like we're talking about with Jalen Brunson and Derrick Rose, I think.
I see it. I see a little difference because I think it could get to a point where he sees RJ as an equal, maybe, or he gets to a point where he sees him as, somebody that can carry the load as well. And you saw a little bit of that last year. I think the better RJ plays, he'll get there. Like when you see Tatum and Brown. Like, so I could see Randle and RJ getting to that point. But the respect that he has for Derrick Rose, to me, is like another level.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll ever see RJ as better than him. But I think they can get to the point where he can see him as his equal.
Right. And for real, I think that's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
right?
It is.
Because then, when you see someone as your equal, then it's like, okay, they want it. Let them go ahead and do it because I know they're going to get the job done.
Right.
A guy like Derrick Rose, you're right. He'll never see RJ like Derrick Rose because he probably grew up watching Derrick Rose, right? He was probably a teenager or whatever, watching Derrick Rose do his thing. So, that's a whole nother level of respect. It's kind of like when he was in LA with Kobe.
Right.
It's a whole different thing.
Right.
So Randle also spoke about learning in the off season, from his experiences last year. I do have, 2 quick clips that I'll bring across, and then I want to, get your thoughts on that. This is Randle on learning from last season.
Like you said, it's hurdles, ups and downs, all different type of things, but like anything in the season, whether it's a great season, whether it's a bad season, you learn. And I think I learned a lot for sure. I learned a lot. Like you said, when it's good, it's easy to be a leader. When things aren't as good, and you're going through adversity, I think it's even more important. So I learned a lot. Like I said, I'm just excited. I feel great about our team, physically and mentally where we are as a team, and just ready to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, so I think the key thing he said there is when things aren't going good, it's more important.
Right.
Right. And hopefully he's taking that to heart and understands understands how things were last year and that it can't be that way again. I think there's more voices and stronger voices in the room now, to help keep it away. But he's saying the right things. Can he put it on the floor? What's your thoughts on what you just heard him say?
Sam, I zoned in on that statement as well. That lets me know that he gets it, at least cognitively. Now, can he put that in play in the moment when things aren't when things aren't going well? We shall see. But he gets it, and he understands how important that is. And listen, a locked-in Julius Randle raises the Knicks ceiling because he's a talented guy.
Right. Yeah. Let's just hope that he can actually do it on the court. But again, I think a person's presence means a lot, and I think Jalen Brunson has the presence. I've seen it's like when you have a substitute teacher, right? Kids act up when you have a substitute teacher, because that person, doesn't have the same respect. But when that person comes back, the kids fall back in line. Mm-hmm. You'll see sometimes kids, if there's a student absent, it might change the whole dynamic of the classroom. If one student is absent or one student comes back to the classroom or added to the classroom or taken away from the classroom, can change the entire dynamic. And I think it's the same thing with a basketball team. The presence of one person out there on the floor with you can change the entire dynamic.
Yep.
And I think Jalen Brunson's presence does that. Yeah. And I think that's why he's going to be important for Randle. That right there, ladies and
gentlemen. It's not going to be as bad.
Go ahead, Steph.
So the team is not going to be as bad.
True,
so he's not going to be. I mean, there may be some adversity.
Yeah, at some point, there's going to be some adversity, right? Yeah. I mean, something is going to happen. The Knicks are going to hit a losing streak, right? Maybe there'll be multiple guys injured, and so now guys got to step in. So if there'll be something, and we'll see how Randle and everybody else responds. That's why I think in that moment, Jalen Brunson is more of just a calm, steady head, that the team can rely on. And because for all intents and purposes, it just looks like he's going to be the leader out there. They're going to follow in his footsteps. Yeah, they're going to follow in his footsteps. Is there anything else from today? We hit on some key points. Anything else from anybody else that you heard in some of the clips that some of the clips that were out there that you'd like to comment on?
IQ. When Monica asked him, what's the best IQ? And he said a two-way player that can guard, some of the better guards in this league. Shoot obviously was last. Was last in the list of the things that, he said that he was working. She said, "What did you work on?" He didn't give a whole list of things. He said, "My strength," so that he could defend. So I was very happy to hear that, and that he's focusing. It's important to him to be a two-way player, not just an offensive player. So I was impressed with that. Obi Sim, confidence. Like he talked when they asked him, he said confidence and not, getting out of his own head. And so for me, they really brought it home that that's a big thing for him.
Yep.
That his game. We could talk about his three-point shooting. We can talk about this, but for Obi, it's about confidence, not being in his head, letting things flow. And that's on him because there's going to always be external factors. And it's about him just getting better, similar to Randle, like not letting those things get into his head and just staying confident within himself. And if he's able to do that, he's going to be able to shine. I think about how he looked his rookie season. Now I'm starting to think he looked terrible. Was it his skill and his game, or was it just that he wasn't very confident out there and it just looked so bad?
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for him, and he continues to bring it up.
Yeah. It is. And it's also evident to me that other people are bringing it up to him. Because especially in that first season, you could see that it was almost like a deer in the headlights, right? He was afraid to make a mistake. You know what I'm saying? He was afraid to make the wrong pass. And if you play afraid, it's going to inhibit your play greatly. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to play the game if you're always thinking about making a mistake. You're going to make mistakes while you're playing. I mean, think about it. If you shoot 50% from the field, 50%, that's good. Right? If you get 50% on a test, you know what I mean? You failed it. you know what I mean? Right. So, basketball is a game of mistakes. The team that makes the less mistakes normally wins the game. Right? He's got to be able to go out there and play without that fear factor. And I feel like for Obi, it's a hard thing for him to do. I can only base it on my experience and being around people and being around young people. But he's like a very happy-go-lucky guy, and I don't feel like he doesn't have that. I don't give a F what anyone says. This is what I'm going to do. He doesn't have that in him. I don't feel like he has that in him, at least. Right? I don't see that. Someone like IQ, like I can kind of see it in his bravado that he has that in him. Like, I don't care. I'm going to shoot this. If you don't like it, coach will take me out if you don't like it. Obi cares about what somebody else is saying or how they feel. He doesn't want to upset the coach. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just speaking on from what I see from him. You know what I mean? And in basketball, in any sport, actually, in my opinion, you got to have a little bit of that I don't care attitude.
Right. But this is, so to me, Sam, that doesn't bode well for his career unless that changes. Because there's going to always be haters, external pressures, people who don't like you, coaches that yell at you. And so basically, in order for you to thrive, the situation has to be just so, and listen, I'm not saying you're not going to get frustrated. I'm not saying you're not going to get angry, but I'm talking about where you losing confidence in yourself and your game, and you're getting all in your head. And now when you get in the game, well, they want me to do this. I can't make a mistake. It's hard to be successful that way. And fine, it'll work if you get a coach that you're lockstep with, and the environment is such, you might be able to succeed. But then if the coaching change, you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I just feel like not that your confidence will never waver. It's just that even McBride, when you listen to McBride hardly gets any minutes. When you listen to him talk, he'll tell you in a minute, I got confidence in my game and in what I do.
Right.
He ain't even getting any time. His confidence is not wavering. The coaching staff told me my time will come, and when my time comes, I don't know. To me, that's a small concern with Obi Toppin. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. I guess my last follow-up question would be, how does he change it? How does he get the confidence? Like, I think that's one of the hardest things for a young person, maybe for any person. I'm not confident. How do I get confident? Like, it's not something that I can control really, because it's a feeling, so how does he build that confidence?
I think he can. It'll come over time, but obviously for him, it's going to have to come with success. Continued success, sustained success, where he's feeling really good about himself, feeling really confident. Then when things don't go well, he has experience. Listen, I've actually been successful in this league for a significant period of time. Things are not going well right now, but I have the experience to prove that I can play in this league. So, if he has a good season this year, maybe that'll help and he had a good toward the end of the season. I think that helped build his confidence. If he can continue that into this season, I think that'll build his confidence. And then I think he can get to a place where his confidence doesn't waver. But he's going to have some positive experience, continued positive experiences we'll have to have.
Yeah. I agree. And maybe he can do that by setting small goals.
Right.
And accomplishing small goals and then just building from there, I mean, anything small, whatever is in his developmental plan, you know what I mean? Okay, let's average 12 points a game. You know what I'm saying? Right. Oh, now you average 12 points a game. Let's do it on this % shooting now. And, let's get this many defensive stops in a row, whatever it is, but small goals that you can celebrate and then build upon those small goals. Then I think that goes to, having success, and realizing those successes. But it's going to be, he is a player that I could see, maybe, I don't want to say he's going to have a challenging year, but it could be a challenging year for him if he's, either way, if he's not playing well and not getting the minutes, that's going to be a challenge for him. But if he is playing well, he still might not be getting the minutes, and that's going to be challenging for him.
But how is he interpreting that? Because it's one thing to say, well, I'm confident. I'm not getting the minutes because the guy that plays in front of me just signed a 4-year contract. He's entrenched in his organization. He's been an all-star. My time will come.
Right.
So if he has that mindset, he can hold his confidence. Alexa off. I don't know what I said. but if he's thinking, I did all that work in the summertime, I did everything coach asked me to do, and I'm still not getting more minutes, and he's not attributing to who he's playing behind, but he's attributing that he's doing something wrong, that his confidence can waver. So it depends on how is he making sense of the situation.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's going to be something to see, but I'm excited for the season. I'm excited for the season, man. Training camp begins tomorrow. You know what we didn't hear from is Tom Thibodeau. We heard from Leon Rose. Heard from the players today. I mean, I guess you'll probably hear from Tom Thibodeau after training camp tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right?
I would think so.
I know in the past they would have Tom Thibodeau do or the coach do a press conference, sometimes even before the players, but didn't hear anything from Tom Thibodeau yet.
Right.
We'll see if they do. But I'm looking forward to training camp beginning tomorrow and starting to get some news out of training camp. I will be doing a meeting at 3:30 tomorrow. It should be a short meeting. So right after that, I'll probably do, a training camp day one. So maybe it'll be, between 4 and 4:30, a day one training camp review or something like that. And
so I should be able to make it.
Okay. Yeah. Great. So, training camp tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Go check out those interviews. And as we do the training camp thing tomorrow, we'll probably jump back to some of those interviews because I know we obviously didn't hear everything. And there's going to be some things in there that I hear that I want to talk about a little bit. I might try to do it. I don't know if you saw it, Steph. I started a new segment, the Knicks Fast Break.
No,
where,
I didn't see that.
I put 3 minutes on the clock, and I'm trying to get all the news, not all the news, but whatever I have lined up, the news and my points out within 3 minutes. And, it's tough, and I'm not editing it either. I'm going straight live, so it's tough to get it out in 3 minutes. I might try to take a couple of points, bang, 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 couple of points, and do it that way. I want to actually get some guests on the show too, where I ask them some questions, and they got 3 minutes to go through all the questions and answer it off the top of the dome quick, and see how they do, and the entire video 3 minutes long.
Wow.
Trying to keep it 3 minutes long. It can be shorter, but not longer. That's what I'm trying to do. I think the last minute actually ended up being 3 minutes and 1 second. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, listen, it's 7:48 in about 45 minutes. The Queen's Court is going to be on. All right, so make sure you check out the Queen's Court at 8:30. All right, we're going to be getting everything together for the Queen's Court. So make sure you join us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to let you go and listen to some of those videos. I'm pretty sure Steph is going to, talk about some of those things during the Queen's Court. What else are you talking about, Steph?
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about where we think the Knicks will finish in the Atlantic Division, and then we'll also compare the Knicks roster with some of the rosters in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah.
All of them, if we get an opportunity. If not, we'll do two this time.
Okay, all right, and we'll see it. Compare the rosters and see if the Knicks can shock the world.
Yeah.
See if they can shock the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your time. Make sure you check the Queen's Court at 8:30. All right, we're out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.